Today I'm speaking with Amypassion. Amy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, team. Greetings to you. How you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to see you. And you're coming to me all the way from across the world. Amypassion lives in Delta State in Nigeria. She's a
Yeah.
realtor and an online marketer. She was born and raised in Christianity until she turned 28 in 2017 and started questioning the whole theology and doctrine and concept of religion. And she is at this point a humanist activist focusing on helping people escape from the Abrahamic religion. So we have a lot to talk about. I want to hear your story. Before we get into it, though, could you tell us just a little bit more about yourself and some fun stuff?
Okay. So, like you said, thank you so much, team, for the introduction. Yeah, this is Amy Passion. I'm just a very humble person, a very humble personality. People see me as a very tough girl, as somebody that is so bitter because of the way I present myself and the information I put out there. But personally, I feel that I'm a very sweet person. I'm a very fun, loving person. I laugh most of the time. And I love the people around me to be like very happy. So I crack jokes. I make people around me happy. We we talk about issues and we come together and think about how to prefer solution to issues. I love traveling. My greatest hobby is traveling. I love to visit places. I love natural places. I love to visit somewhere I haven't been before. The cave, the mountain, the river. I want to tour. I want to tour. This is, all those wishes that you have inside of you that you don't actually know if you will have the money to actualize it. I want to visit countries. I want to like go outside of my space, see people, interact with people, see different cultures, see different belief, make friends, laugh, dance, and do all those funny, important things. Um, just like you said, I was born a Christian. I was born a Christian. So let me say that 28 years of my life, I was a Christian. I was born into a very religious family. Now, religious in the sense that my mother was very religious, but my father wasn't. When growing up, I can't remember any day that I saw my father going to church. My father used to say some words that church is in the heart. You don't have to be in a place in your physical body for you to be a good person. You can actually be a good person without visiting these places. So, and it's still a very important moral in us. Like he used to call us the children and he tell us something that's very important. He will tell us to be like very upright. When you are dealing with people, you have to be very honest. You have to follow people with truth. You have to be a very simple person to understand that life is not given, that you have life today doesn't mean that you will have it tomorrow. You can actually lose it tomorrow. And you meet a lot of people along the way. And whatever opportunity that you have today is actually an opportunity. That opportunity can actually be taken away at any time. So, all these little morals are the things that, the lessons that I learned from my father. But then my mother, religion was a very important thing for my mother. My mother, not just when we were born, before we were born, she happens to be like very religious because the parents were not religious. My grandfather wasn't a Christian per se. My grandfather was a traditionalist, So during the time that we are growing up, my grandfather had to come to a point that he told my mother to choose between Christianity and education, going to school, because he said that she can't be she can't be going to school, be educated, and also be a Christian. So she has to choose. And my mother chose Christianity for education. So after she got married to my father, she continued in that path. She started visiting different places. My mother visited so many churches. When you ask her a question, she will tell you that she's looking for the true religion. She's looking for people that practices what the Bible teaches. The people that, that are living the life of Christ, emulating everything that is Christ-like to be a Christian. And that's Christianity, like her dedication to uh, the church and the things of the Christian doctrine actually caused the loss of my brother. We were five in a family. We're 4 girls and a boy. That's my brother is the only male child in my family. So at the age of 14, then I was 7 years. And when he was 14, my brother got sick, wake up in the morning, in the middle of the night to ease himself. He fall down and he couldn't stand up from there. And being that at that point, my mother was attending this church, they call it Church of Christ. They don't actually have a signboard, but they call themselves Church of Christ because it's faith-based. They don't take medication. They don't go to hospital. They don't dance. Every other thing is things of the world.
Right.
You don't dance. You don't play football. Even when we go to school, you don't associate with other kids like playing. You don't play football. You don't dance. You don't even clap your hands in the church. Like when people clap their hands and sing song, worship in the church, dance, we don't even do it then. Everything is about spirituality. So spiritual things are so sacred. You have to, live an upright life, live a holy life for you to make heaven. And as at that point, there was a conflict between my father and my mother, because keep in mind that my father wasn't that religious, but my mother was very religious. So there was a conflict between the two of them. So when my brother got sick, my mother insisted that he would not be taken to the hospital, because if he is taken to the hospital, that means she has gone against the word of God. Okay, she have drifted from the faith. And my brother was in the house. The pastors were coming to the house to pray for my brother, because that's what they do in the church at the time. They will come to the house and they will be praying, reading the Bible, laying hands and different things. Not even the herbal medication. They don't even take herbs. Okay. So my brother was down. He was down every day. He was going down. I could remember, I was 7 years, but I could recall one day like that, my uncle came, and my uncle was like, "What are you people doing? You don't want to take your only son to the hospital? What do you mean you are a Christian? What kind of Christianity is this?" And there was a lot of conflict in the house. And at the end of the day, my uncle just took my brother. On the way to the hospital, my brother died. They didn't even get to the hospital when he died. But that didn't stop my mom from being religious. She said something. She said that God giveth and God taketh. That everything that happens to people is according to the will of God. And she continued grooming us in that will of God and everything. But myself, I've been a very inquisitive person. I've been a very curious person. Like, I ask a lot of questions. Sometimes when I see things, I'll be asking myself, why are things happening the way they are happening? Why not like this? Why the other way around? Like, I do ask myself, like, the kind of faith my mother have in God, if there is such thing as such God, wouldn't he just, appear and the only son, that is your only son, appear and do something about it? And not just that. I came from a family we struggle a lot financially. You understand? And, you see your parents, they are toiling morning, afternoon, night, they are struggling, and they are believing and hoping that one day God is going to make it okay. Anyways, fast forward to when I became a teenager. I continue following my mother, and the other of my siblings, we continue following our mom to church. We attended different churches. Sometimes you go to church in Nigeria, because if you know Nigeria so well, Nigeria is actually a religious country. It's actually like people place everything that is happening to them as the will of God. Okay,
Right.
people feel that if things are not going well, they have to pray. You continue praying and continue praying until something happens. Even when you are working hard, you have to believe in God. You have to pray. You have to do things.
Was it
That
corrected? It's mostly Muslims up in the north and Christians in the south.
Yes, Christian in the south, actually. Even in the north, the Muslims in the north is still the same thing. They have to pray continuously. You see them going to the mosques. They're telling them that everything is the will of Allah, So it just is like Christianity in the south is almost the same thing, but different doctrines and, all that. So, it continued like that. As a teenager, I continued going to church, praying to God for everything. But at some point, I started asking myself, some questions like, why do I have to fast before I get some things from a God that, according to the Bible, God created us in his image and likeness. And after the creation of human, he looked at us and said, this is beautiful. So somebody that look at you as an image, a being that, let me use it because they say God is not human, is a being. So a being that looked at you as his creation and said that this is beautiful. There are some things that I don't have to fast. I don't have to starve myself. I don't have to go through pains for you to do this for me. And he said, if according to the Bible, I can actually quote the Bible. I can't say according to Genesis chapter 7 verse, but I've read the Bible, so I know some of the things that are written in the Bible. He said, if your parents, as wicked as humans are, okay, if your parents, the people that gave birth to you, can afford to give you so life, what about how much more your heavenly Father?
Right.
How much more your heavenly Father? So those are the questions I ask myself. And when I go to church, being the way that the Nigerians have commercialized Christianity. Christianity is actually a brand of making money. You will be reading something from the Bible and you'll be seeing the opposite of that in the church. Okay. So when I go to church, I look at people, I see the way people act. Lack of empathy. There's no compassion. There's this kind of, you enter the church and there's already a class. There's already difference between the poor and the rich. A lot of things going on. And I kept asking myself questions. I went from churches to churches because I was looking for empathy. I was looking for people that, the same thing that my mother will always tell us that she's looking for. I grew up looking for the same thing. I was looking for people that have that Christ-like image of compassion, love, where people will gather together. When somebody have a problem, we have to come together and say, okay, this is a problem. How do we fix this problem? What are we going to do about it? The last church I attended before I entered a higher institution, the university, I don't want to mention the name of the church so that they don't come attacking and say that I'm rubbishing their brand or the name of their church. So I was in church one Sunday and, this Pentecostal church, they know how to hype themselves, how to talk about what God is using their general overseer to do. Okay, so in Nigeria, people actually pray in the name of the general overseer. For instance, my name is Amarachi. If I'm a general overseer, people can be saying the God of Amypassion, the God of Amarachi, the God of Peter, the God of Paul. So they feel that there's a kind of anointing that goes through the owner of the church that, can extend to them. So they were making a lot of, testimony about what the God of their pastor is doing, the wonders the God of their pastor is doing. So this woman, she came to give testimony. And she started by saying that she was traveling, she was on transit, and she started preaching the word of God in the bus that she was. And a man that was sitting at the back started interrupting her and saying that you are making a lot of noise. I mean, there are a lot of people in the bus and you are disturbing us. You're making noise, trying to stop her from preaching in the bus. And she said, after preaching, she ignored the man and she continued, public nuisance. She continued preaching. At the end of the day, when she rounded up her preaching, they started traveling. They got to a point and they were attacked by armed robbers. And when they got attacked by armed robbers, one of the armed robbers shot at their boss. And when he did, the bullet left everybody in the vehicle and went and hit the man that interrupted her when she wanted to preach the gospel. And the man died instantly. Immediately she said the bullet hit the man that interrupted her while she was preaching, and the man died instantly. I mean, there was this uproar in the church, like people started praise the Lord. They started clapping and singing to praise the God of their pastor. And I had this chill down me and I was 15 years at that point. I felt very bad. How can a God be this wicked? I mean, why not shame the heart of the man that interrupted the preaching instead of killing the man? I felt very bad as they were dancing. They started praising and they were dancing. I took my Bible and I left the church and that was the end of it. I never attended the church again. That was the end of it. So when I entered the higher institution, I didn't attend church for the 6 years that I spent in school. On Sundays, I'll be in my house, I'll be sleeping. People will be calling me, let's go to church. I will tell them that you people goes to church, but I can say that I live a better life than those of you that goes to church. So because of that, because when I look at the kind of life that you people live, it's different. It's the opposite, the kind of life I live. I live a life of empathy. I actually feel for other people. But you people don't feel for nobody. Like, you have this hardened heart. You just want the best for you. Let every other person be suffering, because that is what Christianity is about. It's about me, 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 me. I want to be blessed. I want my family to be blessed. I want everything that concerns me to be blessed. Then what about other people? What about your neighbor? What about, your community? How do you feel about the community? How do you feel about the sick people and all that? So I didn't attend church throughout that time. But then I graduated from school, and the economy situation where you have to go to school, you come out, and you still have to fast and pray to secure a job, because the government have made it in a way that the job is not there for you. You have to pray. You have to go an extra mile. For instance, when, like, you are in the United States of America, and I have friends. I haven't been to the United States, but I know how things work in the United States. There's actually job everywhere. You can get a job if you want to. If you are willing to get a job, you can get a job. You don't have to fast and pray for you to secure a job. You don't have to fast and pray for you to pay your bills, have your shelter, have steady electricity, and have all the necessary facilities and amenities. But unfortunately, down here, it's not really like that. So people, they kind of capitalize on the fact that things are not going the way it's supposed to go. I do tell people that an impoverished economy is a religious economy. Okay, when people are very impoverished, they are very religious, because they feel that there's a being that will do it for them, since the government have failed to do it for them. Like, sometimes you hear people say something like, let's put everything in the hands of God. The heart of a king is in the hands of God. One day God will fight our battle. It go better kind of mentality. So when I graduated, I started looking for a job. I couldn't find, and I started telling myself, perhaps it's because I didn't pray enough. Perhaps it's because I refused to go to church during my days in the university. I started praying. I rededicated myself again back to Christianity. So while I was going to church, I was submitting my CV, sorting for a job in different places. I was praying, and I started attending this other church. It's a very big church. It used to be like very popular. It's still popular in Nigeria. And the man of God, according to what they call themselves, the man of God, sometimes you'll be in the church and they will say, raise your prayer request, raise it unto God, and all those things. I was raising my prayer request, which is, I'm looking for a job. God should, give me a job. And at the end of the day, I secured a job, which of course I submitted my resume. I did everything. I went for an interview. It wasn't as if I was sleeping in my house and they called me and said, you can resume work in so place. So I started paying my tithes. And there's something that is very spectacular about this particular church. If you are not paying tithes in the church, you cannot be a member of the church. You can actually come to church as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, and you will not enter the church auditorium because of, basic people make you feel that this man is very powerful. He has so much anointing. If you can lay your eyes on him, your problem is solved and everything. So people were trooping to the church. So you can actually come to church very early in the morning, and you will not be able to get into the auditorium. At the end of the day, you'll be hanging, or maybe outside the church, you'll be at the canopy or stuff like that. But people
just
like us,
because you're not paying money.
Yeah, because you're not paying tithe. So at some point, I started asking the members of the church question, like, how can I go to church as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and I will not make it into the church auditorium? And they told me that they gave me a secret. Like, the code is, just meet any of the ushers and tell the usher that you want to pay tithes. And I did it. I tried it and it worked. I told the usher that I want to pay tithes, and they ushered me to a place that I'll pay tithes They gave me a card, a membership card. So basically, I can come to church 7 a.m., just flash my card as a tithe paying member, and I will just enter the church auditorium. And, and this man was prophesying about things that is happening all over the world. You come, when they make prediction, we call it prophecy. So you will make a prediction, a lot of prediction. If any of them happen, they will say, yeah, the man of God prophesied, the man of God, and more people will come to the church because of how they will hype and televise the whole thing. But then, that same year, after all these prophecies, I was very close to the church one day. I was doing my marketing, and one of his hotel, the hotel is actually at the back of the church. One of the hotel collapsed, and the visitors that came from other countries, they were killed in the collapse of the building. More than 100 people lost their life. More than 100 people. These are people that visited the church. And I continued, when you are brainwashed, you have already filled your brain with different verses of the Bible. It's not making you to, relate to things realistically, see the reality on ground and ask yourself important questions. People were asking me that day, your man of God that sees things, prophesy about things that happen everywhere. Why is it that his own hotel, he could not see that the hotel is going to collapse? And immediately I came up with a verse in the Bible that many are the affliction of the righteous, but the Lord saved them from them all. So I was telling them that many are the affliction of the righteous. And it didn't stop me from going to church. I continued. But I noticed something. Prior to the collapse of the hotel, the ushers were very rude. You come to church, they don't want to talk to you. You'll be talking to them like they were so rude. But the man of God himself, he happens to be like, he come out and he presents himself to be a very humble person, a very humble person. That was when I knew that people have multiple personality. They actually show you the kind of personality they want to show you at any particular time. Because then I'll be asking myself, like, why is it that this man of God that is so humble, this man of God is so humane, works with this kind of people, like his questions are so rude? I'll be asking myself, is it like he's not seeing this? Like he needs to pick people that actually reflect his personality. Then after the collapse of the church, I saw different personality in the ushers. They became very soft. They will come to church and they will relate to you with that humility. Hello, sister. Okay, yeah, you can go upstairs. They were like, so I was like, wow, what is happening? So one day I sat down and I don't know, I started asking myself questions. A lot of people stopped coming to the church and they became very, very humble. I asked myself some questions like, this thing is nothing but money. It's all about money. Everything that has to do with religion is control, power, and money. I started asking myself, like, look at the kind of amounts that these people generate every service day. You pay for this, you pay tithes, you pay offering, they gather all this money. And sometimes they do some kind of philanthropy. They will gather some people, they will give them less than 1% of the things that they have received. And everybody will be happy. Will be saying that this man of God is doing wonders. Look at the way he's helping people. But you have forgotten that you pay a lot of money yourself. You are paying him. You can imagine when somebody just sit down in a place and the only job that this person is doing is just to be flipping pages from a book called Bible, telling you some things, being a motivational speaker, giving you that seduction, telling you that everything that is happening to you is according to the will of God. You have to continue praying. You have to continue tithing. You have to, be steadfast. Sometimes when they give you fasting or when they give you prayer and tell you that after praying, after 14 days, you will see results. After 14 days, if you don't see results, they will start asking you questions like, did you break your fast at any point? Did you quarrel with anybody? Did you commit any sin? They will be asking you questions, that's emotional blackmail. Before you know it, you say, oh, it's because I did so thing. That's why I didn't get the result of my prayers. So when I ask myself this question, I continue going to church. But then, one December, the same year, December, something happened that actually broke the camel's back. So I came to church it was 31st December. I came to what they call crossover service. That crossover service, the next day is the new year. As early as 12 a.m., they will start like praying, prophesying about what is going to happen the next year. People go to this service with troop. In fact, there are some people that don't go to church from January, but that December 31st, that crossover night, they always attend the crossover night because they feel that prophecy, that 31st night prophecy is actually what will take them through the whole year. So I attended that program that day. And because of the collapse of the church, they've already come up with a lot of conspiracy. They say that they had an attack, that the rival churches were attacking him. There's so many things. They came up with a lot of things. And they say that they receive a tip for bomb threats, so they are searching people. But actually, the truth of the matter is that the church collapsed because of the foundation. The foundation was very weak. You understand? Greed, human greed. The foundation was initially for a story building, but because a lot of people started coming, they started topping more stairs on the previous foundation, and the church collapsed. So there was nothing like bomb attack or any attack, anything. There was nothing like that. But of course, they actually look for something to cover up, and
That's really sad.
so that day, they were like, they have to search everybody. I was outside. There were so many of us outside. We were shouting, I'm a member, open the church. We want to enter. I'm a member. They said we are not entering, that we came late. So as we were outside the church that day, waiting for, like, hoping that they will change their mind and, allow us in, a very prominent person. This person used to like come out, like if there's anything, she would come out and said, I am giving the church 5 million. I'm giving the church 10 million. She's a prominent person, one of the prominent people that attend the church. So her daughter came to church. She came late. She even came late than us. We were already there. We were begging to enter the auditorium, but she came very late. And because she's a daughter of a prominent person, the ushers have to like come, they came and make way for her to enter. Then at that point, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this church. I am done. I'm done with everything that I have to do. I mean, why would God be like this? The discrimination, why would God, be favoring the rich over the poor? And funny enough, all these things is actually written in the Bible. Sometimes when you ask question about it, they will tell you the parable of this, how Jesus said that he would took from the person that have lesser and give to the person that has more. It's all biblical, I stopped going to that church
So
at that
disgusting.
point. Yeah, so
it's amazing the
gymnastics,
the mental gymnastics that they do in those. So just for context, when you were going through all this and seeing all these games that the pastors were playing and all the ways that it was so focused on money, would you say that your faith was still strong in the sense that it was separate, like where you're like, these guys are doing Christianity wrong, but that doesn't mean that Jesus isn't real and he's not my savior? Or was it so interconnected that you were starting to deconstruct the whole thing at that point?
That was actually what was happening to me. Like, I was seeing all that, but I do tell myself that yes, as human, we have our own problem, we have our own flaws. Okay, it doesn't stop Jesus from being Jesus. It doesn't stop God from being God. You understand? So I told myself that what I was actually seeing is actually the human deficiency. You understand? But if I should like open my heart for Jesus, that, a lot of things can actually happen. In fact, I have to overlook some of the human deficiency or the human flaws and focus on Jesus as the author and the finisher of my faith. So it was actually stuff like that was happening to me. In fact, I don't know. For the time that I attended church when I was a Christian, I will tell you that I attended up to 20 churches. I attended up to 20 churches, different denominations. In fact, the last one was a Roman Catholic. I wasn't born into Roman Catholic, but at some point I have to start attending Roman Catholic. At the end of the day, it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. It's almost centered on money this, money that. But then in 2017, something happened to me. I was in a relationship with a man, and everything was going well until Christianity came in. It has to be like you were not born a Christian, you were not born a Catholic, you know, you don't have a Catholic background. I am Catholic, a lot of things started coming up. And at the end of the day, that relationship was broken and the love was broken. And at that point, I started asking myself questions. I don't ask people, I'll be like, this person, there's a lot of denomination, at least in Nigeria. We have so many churches. We have so many Pentecostal churches. And this Mr. A doesn't believe that Mr. B will make heaven. They have their different doctrine and they feel that this person will say, okay, our doctrine is the best. Our doctrine is the only doctrine that will take you to heaven. There are some of them that believe that when you wear earrings, when you pierce your nose, when you draw tattoo, you are no longer a son of God, a daughter or son of God. You will not make heaven. They have a lot of different doctrines. And I'll be asking myself, like, there's so much conflict on earth as humans. How are we going to magically live together in harmony in heaven if we can't even live together on earth? If we can't even agree with each other? Sometimes when you tell somebody that I'm a member of this church, that person will tell you, that church, their doctrine is bad. You will not make heaven going to this church. There's a lot of discrimination. And when I ask some people this question, some people will tell you that at the end of the day, we shall be changed. We shall be changed. We are going to transform. It's not this human body, because this human body comes with a lot of corruption, comes with a lot of inadequacies. It comes with a lot of things. But when we are changed and we are wearing that spirit form, okay, in that spirit form, everybody will be one. All these things that we are suffering on earth, we will no longer be suffering them again. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So at some point, I decided to read the Bible, because in Nigeria, as a Christian, you don't really read the Bible. You just go to church and the preacher man will tell you to open the book of John, chapter 7, verse 13. He will read and interpret it in his own way, tell you to tap into the faith. At the end of the day, they will tell you a lot of sermon that will push you to give them money. You go back. When you are done with that, you close it, go back to your house, and that's the end of it. In fact, sometimes if you even want to read the Bible on your own, they will be the one to tell you the verses and the chapters to read. Okay? So I told myself, like, let me even read the Bible myself so I will understand the Bible. And when I started, I told myself, they said you need the Holy Spirit to understand the Bible. So I started praying, Holy Spirit, I need you to come and interpret the Bible for me. I want to understand the Bible. I want the Holy Spirit, So every year, my mother, in fact, the only gift my mother has given me as a birthday gift was the Bible. My mother never gave me any other. That is how religious she is. She only gave me Bible as birthday gift. So I had the Bible, and I never read it on my own. So I was going to church with the Bible. So when I decided to read the Bible on my own, I began from Genesis chapter 1. And when I started reading the Bible, I was seeing a lot of contradiction. Yeah, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And I asked myself, where was God when he created heaven and earth? Where was he? In the beginning, where was he? He created heaven and earth, and he called darkness out of light. And there are so many things. I'll be asking myself, is this actually real, or am I reading a fiction? Because it seems like when you're reading a fiction, something that is not even realistic, I continue reading. Like, I wanted to understand. The Holy Spirit that I called on to come and, explain and interpret the Bible for me. I don't know. I was getting a different meaning. I wasn't being inspired. I was even being confused the more. And I read the story of Cain and Abel. And I was like, what is this? What is this? I mean, a God created a man and a woman. They gave birth to two sons, Cain and Abel. They made sacrifice, and God wasn't pleased with Cain. You understand? Because of his sacrifice, he was pleased with the brother. But then you watch the person that you were pleased with be slaughtered by his own brother. And God was watching. Then after Cain killed his brother, God put a mark on his forehead. Like, why? Why the mark on his forehead? Why would you allow him to kill the one that you love? And you now put a mark that another person will kill. Like, it doesn't make sense. And according to the Bible, it said that, Cain started heading east and he went to the city of Nod and he got married. And I was like, got married to who? I thought the parents are the first man and first woman on earth. Got married to who? So I was just being, I was very confused. But it was okay. It was okay. I continued. I saw a lot of things in the Bible. I saw slavery. I saw oppression. I saw rape. And I was like, what is this? A God? And at this point, I have already had my child. I had my child. And when I had my fourth child was when I understand what unconditional love is about. The first day mosquito bit my son, I was crying, like, in the middle of the night, I was sleeping. My son was, stunning. He was in the bed. He was stunning. He was inside a mosquito net and he was stunning. So I opened the net, I on the light and I saw mosquito. And this mosquito have already bit my son. I killed the mosquito and I started crying. I said, why my son? This is an innocent boy that I just gave birth to. Why my son? Why would the mosquito leave me and bite my son? So I was crying like the whole night. I couldn't sleep. I was like, I was pissed off at the mosquito that bit my son. Then I sat down and I asked myself, if myself as a mother will be so pissed off and be very protective over my own child, what of God? I saw a lot of things happen in the Bible, and it was as if God loved a particular set of people. It was about Israel, this Israel that sons of, the children of Israel, the children of Israel. And I'm not an Israeli. I'm not. So at some point I was like, okay, maybe life is so difficult because I'm not from Israel. Maybe God is from Israel. God is for the Israeli people and it's not for me, you know. So by the time I read the Bible, I'm not even sure I got to Exodus and I got very pissed off. So I started shredding it because I told myself, no. If there is such thing as a God, this book is not inspired by that God. This book will never be, if there is such thing as God, this book will not be inspired by God because as a mother, you love all your children unconditionally. You love every one of them. And if as a mother, I'm omnipotent and I'm omniscience, I can see the future of my kids. And I know that along the line, there are some of difficulties or some challenges that they are going to face along the line. I will remove it. I wouldn't want a child. If I want to give birth to a child and I know that this child is going to be evil, it's going to be corrupt, it's going to cause harm to people, and I can see that, I have already seen that, I wouldn't give birth to such child, But at the end of the day, the Bible made it to that God is omnipotent and omniscience. Why did he create Satan in the first place when he knew that this being would be very corrupt, would be very bad and so evil, and will cause a lot of havoc, great havoc on the other children? What is the essence of creating Satan in the first place? And even when the Satan sinned, according to the Bible, they said they sent Satan to Earth. Why Earth? There are so many planets. Why Earth? So when I asked myself this question, I came to conclusion and I came to understand that religion is just a story of some set of people that wanted to control other people. You understand? They want to control other people. They made up story and they made and one thing with human, I found out that human, what they don't know, humans are very scared of what they don't know or what they don't understand. So when they wrote the Bible and they made it in a way that God is a spirit, you don't see it, you don't understand it. So all your life you will be trying so hard to see or to understand. So it has already put you in that box where you have to struggle to understand. You are struggling to understand something that don't even exist. So at this conclusion, I told myself that at some point I told myself that I even have more than the Bible God. I have moral more than God. The things that this God did in the Bible, I can't even do it as a human being. And that was how I left Christianity. I said I can't be worshiping a God that I have morals than. I can't be worshiping a God that I'm better than. Like, I'm a good person. I'm a good person to compare with this God that is written in the Bible. He killed this person. He instructed these people to kill this. Like, why all the killing? For a being that is supposed to, love every one of us unconditionally. Why all the killing? You have the power to change people. You have the power. They say the heart of a king is in God's hand. You have the power. Even that passage where the story of Pharaoh, how God hardened the heart of Pharaoh. You were just killing. You hardened the heart of a man, and you started I was like, what is this? So when I stopped being a Christian, I found the kind of peace that I've never had in my life, because I stopped being scared of spirits. I stopped being scared of every other thing. I started having a very sound sleep. In Nigeria, when you're a Christian and you believe that there's a being that is after you, there are some things that is after you. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and you start praying. You start casting and binding. You don't sleep at night, vigil, you fire, and a lot of things. But when I stopped being a Christian, I stopped casting and binding. I understand what's the problem that people have, the problem that is facing my race, the problem that is facing my people. I started studying and making research. And when I found out all these things, it was at some point I felt like it is up to myself and people like me to come and educate people, educate people and tell them that there is no spirit after you. You don't have any spiritual problem. What we have is an economic problem. What we have is bad leadership, human greed. Like if we can actually, come together and hold the right people accountable, the people that we call our leaders, the people we put in charge for our resources to make our life beautiful. I mean, we have to come together and hold them accountable. There is no heaven. It's crazy that as a human, you are struggling, you are doing everything, believing that when you die, you will inherit mansion in heaven. It doesn't make sense. So I started doing that. And when I started, I faced a lot of challenges. People actually felt that I was mad. When you start questioning, a long time, a generational ignorance, people felt that I was mad. I was called a lot of names. People were calling me names. People laughed at me. People disassociate themselves from me. I lost a lot of friends. They were saying that Amarash is now possessed. I have joined the secret cults. I've become an antichrist. I was called a lot of names. So, but I don't know. It was supposed to bring me down. I was supposed to be depressed. I was supposed to, feel some kind of way. But I don't actually know where the strength came from, because every day I was very steadfast. I continued saying what I was saying. I tell people that I have so much peace. It's not for anything. I have so much peace. And I wish you can taste this peace that I have. I wish that you can come out of this and start using your brain as a human being. There's a lot of benefit in using your brain. Now, if I have a problem, if I have a financial problem, I have a financial problem. So I ask myself, how do I sort myself out financially? What do you do? When you have a problem, financial problem, you go to work. You start working. You start making research. How can I earn money to solve this problem? You understand? And I tell people that all the wonders that we see in this world is all about people trying to solve problems. People preferring solution to problems. And anybody that believes in a being, an imaginary being to solve a problem for you, you will continue having that problem. It is up to you to rise up and, do things for yourself, solve problem for yourself. Is it economic problem, financial problem, whatever it is, it's up to you to do them yourself, So at some point, for the fact that, people were looking at me, a lot of people told me that I was going to die. So and gave me a year to die, because I blaspheme against God. They told me that anybody that blasphemes against God is going to die. So some gave me a year, some gave me a month, some gave me 7 days. I was receiving a lot of threats from different places. And so many of them, like, they have seen me. I went from 1 year to 2 years to 3 years to 7 years, and I'm not dead yet, you know. But one beautiful thing about it is that the people around me, the people that call names and, tag me, all sort of thing, by the time they have issues and they come to me, the way I sort out that issues, the way I talk to them, the way I make them feel, at some point they started feeling like maybe we had a wrong impression about her. Maybe she's not evil after all. Maybe, they started asking themselves questions. And at some point, I now see people vouching from it. Like, this my friend, she will tell you that, yes, you that is talking, you're a Christian, but you're not better than me. You're not better than Amy. Amy is better than you. Amy has a good heart. Amy has a good heart. You have a very wicked heart. People started vouching for me, and I was like, okay, we are heading somewhere. We are heading somewhere. So I told people that all we have to do is just to live humanly. Live humanly. Find a way to, deal with our problem, find a way to come together as a people, find a way to solve our problems, find a way to live in peace and harmony with each other. We don't really need religion. What we need is ourselves. As humans, what we need is ourselves. And it continued like that. And that is actually what brought me to where I am today. That is what brought me to and made me who I am today.
I love how you've talked several times about like what really started to change this for you. What was the idea that when you got really into the Bible, that was like the big tipping point for you? Because I've heard that so many times where it seems like a lot of us either didn't read certain passages like the ones you talked about, or we kind of glossed over them in some way. Maybe read them too quickly, or maybe our theology told us to just excuse God and say he is right to commit genocide and all that. But when you really do get into it and you realize this is a really not just horrific and violent God, but he's also just weird. Like I've thought a lot about the whole circumcision thing, like a God who likes to cut off the end of little boys' penises. Like really, that is some weird stuff. And then you get to the New Testament with Christianity, and you get the Lord's table, the communion, and you're eating the bread and drinking the cup, and you're pretending to eat a dead man's body and pretending to drink a dead man's blood. This is some really weird stuff. And when you realize this is weird and this is horrible, and yet you've been enjoying it and defending it and thinking this is all wonderful, and so have all of your friends and loved ones, it really does at a certain point when you wake up. And that's the point, is for some of us, it just takes us a while to wake up. But when you do, when you really wake up, it's like, whoa, what have I been in? This is some bad stuff, and this is some weird shit. And then you just once you start to see it, it's really hard to not. I mean, so it's you can't unsee it, but it's also hard to not see more and more and more of it in the Bible, because it's all over the place. And you eventually get to a point where you can't defend that God anymore, and you don't want to defend him. And it also weirds you out when you ask other Christians, and they keep coming up with these platitudes and these patronizing excuses for God, and you're just like, wait, like you really, like I'm gonna tell you that I don't agree with the fact that God commanded like child brides, and then you're gonna say, well, what? It's God. God says it must be okay. Like you're really, this is some whacked stuff, and it's so hard when you realize they just can't see it. They just cannot see it.
Yeah, they always say the way of God is not the way of man. God works in mysterious ways. We can't question God. We can't question God. And that is I tell people that religion thrives on fear. Religion is actually fear induced. When they tell you that this being, you can't question this being, you'll be asking yourself, what kind of being is that you can't question? When you can't question your parents, you know that your parents are narcissists. Your parents are some kind of weird people, because we should ask our parents questions, when some things are happening. But when you can't question God, he just does as he wishes. He just does as he likes. He kills people. He harden the heart of people he instruct people to kill other people. He instruct people and to enslave people. And you'll be asking, where is the moral of this God? Where is the moral? And then they told us that God gave us free will. If I can't question a being that gave me free will, so what's the free will about? What is the free will about? So it's fear. That is the greatest thing that is holding people, that fear of unknown, what is going to happen to them. Sometimes when you tell people about, all these things are not real, they're actually fake. It's actually some group of people that came and concocted this bull crap and they gave it to you. People will be like, yeah, it's better for me to believe than when I die and I found out that there's nothing like that, than not believe, and when I die, I go to hell. So it's so funny. But for people like myself, I just tell people that I don't really care about where I go to when I die. What is very important to me is how I live in the present. What legacy do I leave behind before I die? What is the impact that I've made in humans? Okay. What is the impact I have made in my community? What is the impact I've made in people? That is what matters to me. It's not about what happens when I die. Okay. So, I feel that if a lot of my people, because this thing is actually affected, my people are affected most by this. Maybe because of the economy, maybe because of poverty, how impoverished the people are. Like I said, that an impoverished people, an impoverished economy is a very religious economy. Yeah. I do tell them that if they can actually come out from this, and let's, think about the legacy we leave behind. Think about building our heaven here on earth, building our paradise. That thing that you want to enjoy when you die, you can actually enjoy them while you're still alive. You can enjoy them while you're still alive. You can live a very beautiful life. Be in harmony with other people, be in harmony with nature, be in harmony with every other thing, and be a good person. Not create chaos, not create a war, not, cause people pain, not extort people, don't steal from somebody. All these things are just some principles that we can live with, and we can be absolutely fine. And we don't need God to be all these things. So, I wish, and I'm saying we are making a lot of progress, because the way it is now is not the way it was 7 years ago. It's not the way it was 10 years ago. In fact, to be honest, a lot of people that called me mad and insane then, they have come to realize that is actually, I was actually saying the truth, But then you still find out that there are still people that, they came out of this insanity and they still subscribe to spirituality, which of course it happens because there are stages to this thing. It happened to me as well. When you came out of insanity, you now tell yourself, oh, you have to be like spirituality. You tell yourself that there is so much power in spirituality and all that. But at some point, I came out and I told people that I think it's same shit, different toilet. That's what I told them. I think what is spirituality? I mean, there's nothing like that. We are human. We are human. Everything that you see, everything you touch, everything about you is human. You only experience spirituality when you die. That is, there is such thing as spirituality. But for the fact that you are human, and you are living a very physical life. So let's solve our problem with our physical self. You understand? Sometimes I throw a question like, tell me one physical problem that have been solved with spirituality. And we can't even find any. We can't find any. All the wonders that we have seen today come out from human brain, human intelligence, human curiosity. Okay. And that's it. If people can actually embrace and start making use of their brains more than, religion and spirit, I think a lot of problems will be solved, especially for those of us that are living in this part of the world,
Yeah.
Nigeria. and in Africa as a whole, if we actually, start using our brains as human beings and start understanding that it's up to human to solve the human problem, a lot of problem can
Exactly.
actually be solved. Yeah.
Is
A
it
lot of
safe?
problem can be.
Like, is it safe in your part of Nigeria for you to not believe? I know in the north it's more dangerous. And I was speaking with Mubarak Bala, you know that name? I was
Yeah, I
speaking
know
with him
Mubarak.
a little bit
Yeah.
ago. His interview will come up shortly, but I was just curious, like, is it safer in the Christian part, or is there any danger that by being an unbeliever you could also go to prison?
For now, it's safer at some point, but not totally safe, because um sometimes you have to make videos, or you have to tell people, expose some so-called men of God, expose some of the things that they do. And when you expose this thing, they call it instigation of violence. Okay. Sometimes they call it defamation of character. And you can actually be arrested because of it. Can be arrested, and they can charge you to court. At the end of the day, you can actually be sent to prison because of that. They call it blasphemy. And of course, they have a law in Nigeria about against blasphemy. You understand? So, but it's not as bad as it is in the north. It's not as bad as it is in the north. For now,
Yeah.
it's not that bad, but it's still not that safe. But of course, we have to do what we do. We have to do what we you have to be strong and educate your people, despite everything. So many of us some of my friends are actually in prison right now. Yeah, some of my friends are in prison, some are
Because
waiting
of
trial.
religious, because
Yeah,
they're not
because of
Christians.
religion. Like, yeah, there are some of my friends that is because they spoke against a particular pastor, a particular man of God, and they said defamation of character. They came up with so many bogus offense. This person is doing this, lay some kind of allegation. And what happens with the system is when they put all these allegations on you, they will still have to put you in prison, and why they do their investigation. So you can actually be there as long as they want you to be there. And they will tell you that they are running their investigation. So it's not really simple. Yeah, we have to do it. We have to.
When you mentioned before that you were thinking through some of this stuff as you had your baby, how old is your son now, and how has becoming an atheist changed the way that you parent?
Yeah, he's 7 now. He'll be 8 by June.
It's a great age.
Yes, he'll be 8 by June. It's been a very incredible journey. In fact, I am like I tell people that my greatest achievement in life is being an atheist. That's what I tell people, because I love the way I see things. I love the way I relate to things, how realistic I've been. And unfortunately, being that, it's just like you are not even up to 1%. You are living in the midst of millions of people that are still Christian, people that are still believers. And it's very difficult to navigate. It's very difficult. But I love it. I feel some kind of superior. I don't know if I should use the word superior. You know, I don't know if I should. Maybe the word is not really correct of a word to use to explain the way I feel. Because now I tell my children that you have to work. If you need money, you have to work and make money. Anything that you have to do, you have to work for it. Uh, you have to invent things. You have to be educated, educate yourself. You don't have to believe in what other people are doing, because in Nigeria, we have a kind of shitty curriculum that even religion is also part of the curriculum in school. Down here in the East, the children, they are being taught a Christian religious knowledge in school, where they have to gather children and they start reading the Bible and start telling them it's part of the subject in school. In the North, is also the same thing. They have Islamic religion. You understand? And
Yeah.
even when they go
So
to
sad.
school, they have to still gather them in the morning. They have to clap their hands. They have to pray. They have to, thank Jesus and do all those things. But then in my son's school, I have a son and I have a daughter. She's not my biological daughter, but she's living with me. I call her my first daughter. So the two of them are the only people in their school that have to be like separated when they are doing their Christian study. They have to keep my children aside because I told them that I don't want this thing to be taught my kids. Why I'm sending my children to learn science and technology, to learn how to solve problems with their brains and not to rely on any being or any spirit to solve any problem for them. So they actually, the school, they actually appreciated that. But then it's not really easy because this is the third school that my son is attending, the third. The first school, it became a problem. They said, no, this is a Christian school. You cannot exclude your child. All the children have to do whatever we are doing. Every child will be included in whatever we're doing. And I took my son from there. The second school, the same thing. The second school, it was during their Christmas party. So they wanted to do the Christmas party, and I told them that I'm not a Christian, so my son will not partake in the Christmas party. Okay, because Christmas has to do with the celebration of Jesus. I don't know who Jesus is, and my son will not be part of it. And they said, no, it's a must. Everybody in the school must participate. And I was like, if that is the case, then I'm pulling my son from the school. I pulled him. Then the third school, I told them, and they say it's fine that they, respect people believe. If you don't want your child to be part of it, it's fine. But then, you see, once in a while, they'll be asking them question, why is it that your mom, you don't go to church? They'll be throwing some kind of words to them. And kids, the children, when they are not doing things that every other person is doing, they feel that you're punishing them. They feel that, there is something that they are missing. But I still have to call them and sit them down to explain to them that you are not missing anything. The kind of life I live, I don't want you to live that kind of life because I lived a life of trauma as a child. You can imagine when you are being traumatized, someone is telling you about hell. If you do certain things, you burn in hell. You see that's trauma. Like, I don't want you to live that kind of trauma. I want you to be a free person, to know that you are not burning in hell for anything. But there is consequences when you do the wrong thing. There is consequences. You don't have to steal something that doesn't belong to you. You don't have to lie. You don't have to bully people. You don't have to do this because there are consequences for all those things, And I think I'm raising my children right. For them, I'm teaching them accountability, for them to be like very accountable. When they do something, you know that when you do something, there is consequences, about this thing that you did. But I feel that it's better than raising a child with that kind of trauma that you go to hell. But, because this is another thing, they tell you that when you commit sin or when you do some certain thing, you go to hell. But then if you pray in the name of Jesus, you'll be forgiven. Do you understand? I tell people that this is why there is so much crime, because people actually feel that they can actually do something and just by praying, they will be forgiven. It's not the same thing like with someone like me. There's nothing like forgiveness. When you do something, you see the consequences. If you get the wrong consequences for the wrong thing that you did, is entirely up to you. You understand? So for me and for my children, you don't do the wrong thing because you know that you're going to get the wrong result for doing the wrong thing. And you know that there is no being anywhere that is going to forgive you. You understand? So with that, I think it's been very impactful. It's been very impactful because sometimes in the environment I live in, you complain about the noise earlier. You need to hear the noise Sunday morning when they are praying. Oh my goodness, it's very noisy. Because they have to put their loudspeaker, their megaphone, and because a typical religious setting. So
well, it's funny you mentioned that because we do have sometimes people that do that in their car. Like I don't have like a church that does that, but I'll sometimes hear like somebody's like maybe they're on their way home from work, and before they get out of their car to go in their house, they're like you can hear the worship music on blast, and they're just sitting there like soaking it up for a while. It's funny.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So sometimes when it start happening, my son will say, "Oh, mommy, these people are doing nonsense." I think yes, they're doing nonsense. And you don't have to do it. They are praying to God for this, for that, for some of the things that your mom is providing you with. And that's what they're praying to God for. And you need to understand that I'm providing you with these things because I work. When you need something, you work for it. Instead of you to be, doing the nonsense that they are doing. And you need to emulate that you have to work and provide the things for yourself because there's no being to provide it for you. And I'm instilling that knowledge inside of them. But then the people, it's very hard when the people around you, when they don't understand it. Sometimes when my children go out, they'll be like, their other kids will be like telling them, you don't go to church. You don't believe in God. You go to hell. When they come back and they tell me, say that is the nonsense that they are being told, but don't mind it. They're not going to any hell. Okay. There's nothing like that. It doesn't exist. It's the same nonsense. Don't think about it. You're not going to any hell. So it makes them to be like very free. They'll be very free. They know that there is nothing like hell. And they will have the time to explore and live a very wonderful, beautiful life.
I was just curious, and this is more just a cultural question. Do they show pictures of Jesus in Nigeria, like in the Bibles or in church? And do they show him more as like either a Jewish or white man? Or do they show him as a black man? Like, what do you feel like there's any white supremacy that comes in terms of the actual images and iconography?
So the people that acted the Jesus of Nazareth, these are the image that we see. This is Jesus. Can you see?
The typical, yeah. So the white guy. I know it's not the big reason we're talking about it today, but it bothers me because I think even here in America, there, you can go to black churches, and I think a lot of them would have grown up thinking Jesus is the savior, but he's also the white guy. He's the white savior, and it really does surprise me that it isn't that issue isn't talked about more. And I know that you could say, well, he's not white or black. He was originally Jewish, so he was Middle Eastern. But at the same time, because it's presented so often as a white guy, we're very, very close to it. It just makes it so clear that so much of this really is about white supremacy and racism. And I cringe that's what I was part of for so long without realizing it.
Yeah. One thing that happened to African is a fundamental problem. I think it's a fundamental problem, being that when the white people came to our shore, colonized our ancestors, it started with changing their names, giving them their last name and changing their name because so many of our African names couldn't be pronounced by them. It started with that. And a lot of the history book that we have read, you see that these people, they work from Monday to Saturday, and on Sunday they go to church, and the only book that they were allowed to read was the Bible. They were not allowed to read science book, physics book, business, economics. They were only allowed to read the Bible. And in this Bible, they show them, they say, slave, obey your master like you obey Jesus as the head of the church. So there was a lot of programming that went on and on and on, both on the continent and outside of the continent. Because when the white people came to our shores, they presented themselves as they want to teach us, according to my ancestors. They say they came and they said, okay, you have these gods, but we want to present to you a God that is superior than your own gods. In my language, we say chi kashi. You understand? Chi kashi. So a God that is superior than your own gods. And they started telling them, because of the places that they have visited, the knowledge, and they are so informed, they have the knowledge, they have the things that we were not exposed to as at that time. So when you show somebody something that they are not exposed to, they become wow, like, so this is possible. They become wow. And with that being wow, they were able to, colonize our people physically and mentally. You understand? So at some point, our people started seeing that image, that white image, to be actually more superior. Because sometimes you ask people, like, how does it make sense that God is white, Jesus is white, all the angels are white? I mean, where do you fix yourself as an African? Don't you have respect for yourself and have some dignity for yourself? You know, and when you tell them this, when you ask them this question, they will tell you that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They feel that it doesn't matter, but it matters a lot. It matters a lot because if I start raising my child with this image I showed you hanging on my wall and start telling my child that this is your savior, you have to pray to this person. When you pray to this person, he will open a portal, a channel for you to enter heaven. He will solve your problem and all that. You have mentally programmed the child to see a white man to be a god, to be more superior than himself. And it plays a very big role in Africa. Typically, an African man sees a white man to be more superior than himself because he was raised like that. The parents were showing him image of a white guy, image of all the angels that is shown in our churches, in our local churches. They're all white. Angel Michael, Angel Gabriel, all of them are all white. So that's programming. It has a lot. It actually affected Africans so much. It affected Africans so much. It makes them to feel so inferior. And that is where you see the bleaching of skin. People feel that their skin is not good enough. People, wearing different hairs, to look like a white woman and all that. So, we are trying so much to change that narrative to make our people understand that we are Africans and we are amazing, we are powerful, we are intelligent. Okay, we have the resources. The only problem is that we don't have the management. We don't know how to harness the resources that we have to create something beautiful, to make our land as beautiful or even more beautiful than the United States, because we have all it takes to do that. You don't have to start running away from your home, start going to somewhere that people have already faced. We can do it ourselves. And as I think that as we progress, as we emancipate our people from all these things, they will start seeing it clearly. We start owning it to ourselves. We start, our government, perhaps the day will come when we have leaders that think, people, leaders that are, woke and emancipated, people that understand that, you are African, you're African, and there is nothing else you can be apart from Africa. You have the wisdom, you have the knowledge, just that you are shutting down this knowledge and this wisdom with religion.
The beautiful dream. I think too. It's like this fear and reward thing in my mind. A lot of the fear that so much of Christianity is just one step away from really horrific fundamentalism, where they're willing to put everybody in prison, even kill you, just because or ruin your life for sure if you don't agree with them. But also the reward side of it, of just such a beautiful dream, like you're painting, of if rationality could take over, especially at the highest levels of our lands, and we could get rid of the superstition. And I think too a lot about just the idea that the people that in our world that have the access codes to the worst weapons on our planet are people that are praying to Jesus and to Yahweh and to Mother Mary and to Allah.
Of course.
And you think, how scary is that those people have their fingers on those triggers, or they're in their Supreme Courts, where they make the highest judgment calls of the court systems in our countries. And it's just, it would be so amazing to have secularism take a stronger hold soon, hopefully. I feel like in some ways, in the U.S. right now, Christian nationalism is kind of taking over a little bit more than we would have hoped. But I do think there's some ways in which it's like you kind of see it rear its ugly head, and you're like, oh, that's scary that Christians want to take over. But then you're like, it's really clear to a lot of people, even the Christians, that this is like a garbagey way to live. And it's funny. I've been noticing Christians that I know here, like here in the U.S., that I know that they're very, very historically been fundamentalists, and they've been like
Yeah.
hardcore evangelicals. And even some of them, I'm seeing them post like fighting to support our the rights of transgender people, and or fighting to say immigrants should not be ostracized, and just that we should be treating people with basic human dignity. And they're literally like going against the general Christian evangelical narrative. And I'm sure it's the same kind of hodgepodge of issues there too. But it's so cool to
Yeah.
see even some Christians saying, "I was a Christian and I defended it, but now that I see where this leads, this is really disgusting." And it's because I think we're, I don't know if you could really argue this, but I'm going to argue it, at least for now, that I think there's a consciousness that's still happening. And I think sometimes of like, if you think of humanity, even though we're all many nations and many people, if you think of us all as if we were one single person, as if we were just one brain with competing thoughts. And we all do that. We all say, "Oh, I should go exercise. No, I'm too tired. Oh, I should eat right. No, I just want to eat that donut." And
Yeah.
you debate in your head all these things all day long, but I realize we're also debating this stuff on the more profound levels, like racism and tribalism,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking those people are different from me. I'm scared if I can just sound superior to them and suppress them, I'll be safe and my country will be safe, and I'll be safe in my head. And you
Yeah.
realize though that like it's like our voices are competing inside of one single consciousness, saying we could be such a better person, but our primal fears are pulling us back. And in many ways, I think so much of what we're doing really is based on when we were all living, where literally it's just like all tribalism. The tribe right next door, we know that they might be friendly today, but tomorrow they might slaughter us all. And so we're always on
Mm-hmm.
alert, and we're always
Yeah.
afraid. And I think it's just those fears of the way we used to live as people, 100,000, 200,000 years ago. The way that has evolved is still in us, and we're just so afraid of moving forward and actually, despite the Christian message otherwise, like we're actually afraid of truly loving our neighbor. I know Jesus said to love your neighbor, but I don't think Christians really do that. But I think there's a part of us that are really afraid of actually loving our neighbor, and
Yeah.
of being okay with homosexuals being different, and transgender people, and the people that are a different color, and so forth. It's just like if we could just get over some of these most basic tribal aspects of where we came from, we can appreciate the journey it took to get us here, but still say there were some bad ideas, and to admit these bad ideas are woven into the fabric of Christianity and Islam and Judaism, and to say we really are better. But like you have to do the hard work and say, I'll admit it. We're a racist culture. I'll admit it. We're a tribal culture. We're a hateful
Yeah.
culture. We're a violent
Mm-hmm.
culture, and we're all doing it in different ways in our different countries. And to say, if we can just admit it and confess it and say, it's time to think better thoughts. Our countries can certainly have such a brighter future. It's just, you just wish so much that we could call ourselves to a better path,
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, and that is what humanity is about. Humanity is about realizing our individual differences, realizing that as humans we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. Is up to us to condone each other. See where someone's strength lies and where other person's weakness lies. One thing about religion is that religious people are very judgmental. They are very judgmental because when you feel that your own doctrine or your way is the best way, then you feel that every other person should follow your way. It must be your way and nothing else. You know, I do tell people that when I, I I don't know, but I think that humans have their own differences. There are people that are born with a lot of differences. Somebody can actually be born and the person is attracted to an opposite sex, and another person can be born and the person is attracted to same sex. So what do you do when you have somebody that is naturally attracted to same sex. Should you kill it? Should you kill the person in the name of religion or culture? Is that the right thing to do? I mean, if naturally or nature make this person to be like that, who are you to kill such person? Because even when you look at humans, and you can relate what is happening with humans, with the animal kingdom. When you enter animal kingdom, you see a lot of chaos. You have the carnivorous animal, you have the herbivores, you have them, they have their own different nature. Yeah, they have their own different nature. But nature makes them like that. You can't say because this one feeds on grass and this one feeds on, and the other one feeds on other animal. So it's up to us to get rid of all the animals that feed on other animals. We can't really, it's a fight that you can't really win. Myself, I think that what is most important is to have this beautiful enabling environment for all. Like myself, I'm an able woman. And as an able woman, I should have an environment where every person strives, where every person succeeds, where people, they do well. People, you want to do crafts, you can actually be, progressing and succeeding in your crafts. You can bring out some beautiful wonders. This person is doing well. You have a very beautiful environment that you are secured as a human being. You have a system that cares about the lives and the property of every human. You have the system that, that is eco-friendly, a system that extend that care to other things, to nature, to plants, to trees, to making sure that the environment is very beautiful. So humanity first. That is what I tell people. Humanity first before religion, before every other thing. But of course, we cannot always agree on that, because as I'm talking about humanity first, there are still other people that they don't care about humanity. All they care about is chaos. And of course, I have to defend myself when you meet people like that. People that that all they care about is chaos. They don't really care about, being friendly with every other person. But I have tested religion, and I will tell you, I tested religion. I will tell you that the place I am now is better than the place I used to be. The place I am now is safer. It is peaceful. It is wonderful. Like, I enjoy the person I am now better than the person I was 10 years ago. In fact, sometimes I'll be telling people that I wish I left Christianity earlier,
Oh, yeah.
because the only thing I received when I was Christian is nothing but insult and humiliation, fear, threats, and all that. But when I left that circle, I started living humanly. I started living I think I started living the way humans should live. You live a life of, where you're free, where you're in peace, where you're in harmony with everything, that needs to be in harmony with, and I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it. When I look at people, I really pity them. Like, I look at them and I pity them. I don't know. They are pitying me, actually. They pity me a lot. They pity me because they feel that one day I will die and end up in hell. You know.
It's always amazing to me that those people don't seem to question whether that would bring into question whether they could enjoy heaven or not. You know what I mean? Like, if they would think that they're going to go to heaven and enjoy God and in their glory while you're in hell burning, but also that they're going to have to be happy in heaven, they're going to have to completely agree with God. And God's perspective would be that someone like you or me deserved hell, we deserve to burn, and that God is completely happy in that, in his, God is completely joyful in his state of condemning and burning you. If Christians are going to go to heaven and agree with God, then they're going to also have to be rejoicing, not just that they're in heaven, but rejoicing that God punished you and that you got the punishment you deserved and burned in hell. So they're going to dance forever with joy while you burn forever, and they're going to either see it or at least know it's happening and be completely not just okay with it, but fully pleased with it because God's holiness was satisfied.
Yeah.
That's some sick stuff when you think, I mean, what parent in the world would ever say, I'm willing to burn my own child and I will be very happy about it? But that's what they're basically doing from the perspective of God and sort of by corollary themselves. But it's amazing to me. I love how you're talking about becoming a better person. And I would say, I would ditto that, but I'd also just say in a related sense, I had more peace, like so much more peace. Did you feel like that? Like where you it's like night and day. I mean, I try to have peace. I mean, I knew I theologically had peace with God in the sense that Jesus' death and resurrection was my path to peace. Doctrinally, in the courts of heaven, you know, God looked at Jesus and Jesus' righteousness covered me. But in the sense of just like experientially, practically trying to look for peace and feel it, or just thinking, I know I've got it, but I should also feel it. The feeling should match the reality. I never had that. And I had more peace in the first few days of deconverting and leaving Christianity than I did in 43 years as a Christian. And that says something. That really says something, you know?
It actually speaks a volume. When you test that peace, like sometimes people will tell me that I'm praying for you. I'm praying you come back to Christ. I say, you want to kill me. You praying that I come back to Christ is like you saying, I'm going to kill you. Like, you want to cause me pain. You want to cause me harm because I walked that, lane. I know what it feels like being a Christian. I know the experience I had being a Christian. I know the fear. I know the constant panic. You know, when something happens to you, you feel that, you know, it's your inadequacy. You know, you are not adequate enough. You're not righteous enough. You know, but it's not like that. You know, it's actually Christianity that made me to know Satan. I never knew Satan until I became a Christian because, of course, every child is born an atheist until you start indoctrinating them and start teaching them about God and Satan and all this ideology. So when I stopped being religious, I'll say religious because the problem that our people have is not just Christianity, is religion totally. Because you see people coming out of Christianity and they're going into another form of religion. And the same chaos that they witnessed when they were Christian, they're still witnessing the same chaos. But there's nothing as beautiful as you know, being irreligious, just being yourself without subscribing to any religion, without thinking about any spirits, without thinking about anything at all. You're just human and you are just facing the reality and doing things as a human being, solving problems like you should. There's nothing as peaceful and there's nothing as beautiful as that. Like, that's the most beautiful. Like I said before, I tell people that that's my biggest achievement in life. You know, when sometimes people will be like, why are you castigating Christians? So many Christians are better than you. You are this, you are that, you are poor, you're not even richer than some Christian. I tell them that yes, but I have so much peace more than every other person. And I feel that is a very big achievement. You know, when you can just sleep like a child without anything bothering you, wake up in the morning and you're just facing your life as a human being. And there's something that I think is very important, and this one is for the African people. It's for the African people. I used to tell people this: Africans are religious by nature. Africans are very religious people by nature. Africans, they always want to like worship something. They feel that, you know, there's a void that needs to be filled with worship. That is why it's very difficult for Africans to actually, you know, come out of Christianity to begin with. You know, what Christianity did to my people is this: Christianity gave them a sane or serene environment of worship. Do you understand? Unlike what they are used to. Christianity gave them a sane, serene environment of worship. And you see our people that are already religious, people that want to worship something, and you give them a very beautiful environment, a very serene environment. When they come, they spread a different incense, they put beautiful images on the wall, everywhere is so beautiful, white, and you tell them this story, emotional story, so at some point, you lift their spirit, but it's very difficult to find Africans that are not religious by nature. Okay, it's very difficult. And when you see those people that are not religious by nature, which is very few people, that is where you get the best from them. You will see that when you talk to them, when you interact with them, they can easily understand what you're saying. It is different from somebody that already, fill their mind, their everything with religion, with belief. You have to believe in something. You have there's something. Like they always has that question, like, if you don't believe in God, who created you? Who created you when you don't believe in God? Because they feel that, there must be something that created you, created something. And when you ask them a question like, I was created by my parents. I'm a product of unprotected intimacy, So who created their parents? Who created the first man and the first woman? Then when you turn around and ask them, who created God? Because if there must be a creator for the first man and the first woman, then there should be a creator for God. And they will tell you that God is not created. He's a being that is not created, a being that created every other thing, but it wasn't created. All this conflict is what is keeping people down, because every one of us came into this life, and there are things we don't know, and there are things that we will never know. You don't know what happened when we were in our parents' womb. It's only the doctor that will tell you that this is what was happening. This is what they could see from the computers and all that. But as yourself, you don't know. That consciousness started coming by the time you were born, and you started growing. The consciousness started coming. You started realizing some things. And because we all don't know this thing, some group of people that came up and said, we know. A being inspired us to know that thing that you don't know, that question that you've been asking yourself. And people just fall for an answer that they feel that makes sense. There's so many explanations, but they just fall for the one that they feel that it makes sense. But for someone like me, the whole answers don't make sense. Like the whole Bible, the whole story of creation and all that, it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. It's just the same way that other books don't make sense to Christians. Because Christians, when they read the book, the Quran, it doesn't make sense to them. But Bible makes sense. But for someone like me, all of those books, none of them make sense to me. At the end of the day, I don't know. The people that wrote the book, they don't know either. All of us, we don't know. These are things that we will never know. So as a human, you have to, do that thing that you have to do. That's where what I love so much about atheism. Atheism is about asking questions. Atheism is about science. Somebody come up with something and says like, they say, okay, can you prove it? Let's prove it. Just prove to me that it's like that. Can we make more research about this? And we'll continue making research. We'll continue making research because, like I said, all the wonders that we see in this world is out of human curiosity. It's out of asking questions. It's out of, making research, science and technology, So definitely, slowly but surely, we'll definitely get there. We'll get there. It was difficult, but now it's no longer difficult like that. It's no longer difficult because I think I have been able, over the years, I've been able to, surround myself with a lot of people that like minds, people that actually think the way I think, people that have started to realize that all those things that we have been crying and screaming and yelling, sometimes when I have to talk, I'll be like very angry. You know, when you're angry, you're telling people, this is it, this is it, this is it. You bring something, this is water. You're looking at it, you're seeing this as water. And you have to tell an adult that this is water. They're arguing, and you'll be like, you're like so frustrated. What is wrong with you? Can't you see that this is water? You know, I feel that frustration sometimes, but I still have to console myself and tell myself that some years ago, I was just like them. I didn't get it some years ago. You know, I was telling myself that yes, God works in a mysterious way. The way of God is not the way of man. We can't question. So they are actually in that stage. And at some point, for some people, it's going to make, especially for intelligent people, it's going to make a lot of sense for intelligent people, and they will definitely understand.
Yeah. It's amazing too. Once you do escape, you just like you can't go back. And as much as they would want you to believe, like it's funny, you know, the what is it, Pascal's wager. But it's like, well, shouldn't you just believe just to make sure you don't go to hell? It's like I literally can't force myself to believe. Like this just sounds unbelievable. But it's amazing to me how they, you know, they do expect you to act like you believe, even if you know that it's just there's no way you could. But it's amazing on the other side. It's a great journey. I'm so glad you got out. I mean, that's the big point of why I talk to people, is just to kind of start by celebrating the fact that your journey has helped you to escape and to become your real self and reclaim your identity. Do you have any final words for anybody that's kind of going through this, especially someone from Nigeria that's on that crazy journey where it's just like, this is nuts. I can't really believe anymore. I've seen too much and this doesn't sound right anymore. Do you have any final words before we wrap up for them?
Yeah, of course. I have a lot of words to say to my people, and I want to start by telling them that, especially to the people that are going through this phase where you are scared, you have been asking a lot of questions, and you are asking yourself like, yeah, all these things doesn't make sense, but I have to believe because of God. I don't want to die. I don't want this to happen to me, calamity. I don't want to blaspheme against God because according to Bible and all that. I just want to tell them that it's okay to be afraid, but that fear that you feel is nothing. So many of us have gone through that part. The day I destroyed my Bible, I was very scared. In fact, the first day I asked question about Bible and Christianity, a lot of people attacked me. They said a lot of things to me, to the point that I was going out and I was very scared that I was going to be hit by a vehicle. So I was very mindful. I was looking left, right. You know, that fear, like you have done something and God is going to punish you for that. And I went from that stage to the point that I do tell people that I don't even give a fuck if I die today. I don't care. I mean, your God kills people. Okay, fine. Your God should kill me. I don't care. You know, I've gotten to that part. So that fear is nothing. It's actually nothing, because I can tell you categorically clear that God in the Bible doesn't exist. And the Satan don't exist either. All these things are human imagination. All these things come from human imagination. Because as a human, you have dual personality. You have this personality, the good and the evil personality. For instance, if somebody do something beautiful, something wonderful that makes you happy, you feel that you'll be so happy, you'll be so excited. You fall in love with the person, you know, you build a friendship and all that. But that same person that made you happy, that same person that made you to fall in love with them is still capable of making you angry. And you will feel that anger, you feel that animosity. This is dual personality in every human being. It's the positive and the negative. So people came up with this character, you know, this character that is good and this other character that is evil, and they personify the character. The good character they personify as God, and the bad character they personify as Satan, devil, whatever they call it. But it's just a personification of something that doesn't exist. It's just a personification of character. And as human beings, all you have to do for yourself is for you to start using your brain. when you see issues, you relate to those issues, you think about those issues, you ask yourself questions, because that is what I do. When I encounter some issues or some problem, I ask myself, like, as how does a Chinese solve this problem? How does an American solve this problem? Because when I stopped going to church and I subscribe to this African spirituality that is like an indigenous way of doing the same thing that Christianity does. They will tell you about a spiritual husband, they tell you about a spiritual wife, they will tell you about spirit. And at some point, I subscribed to that. At some point, I started asking myself some questions like, how does my mate, who is a Chinese, tackle this kind of issue when they have them? How does my mate, who is a German, tackle this same problem when they have them? And when you ask question, there's this saying, this African wise man saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When you ask yourself question, you will definitely find the answer. If you can find the right answer, you can find the wrong answer. But the thing is for you to use your brain and process all the answers that you get. And, you will be the one to decipher and know the best, the good one from it. We have to decolonize ourselves. We have to emancipate from this thing. It's called mental slavery. It is nothing but mental slavery. When you feel that there's a being that is going to come and save you, when you feel that you only enjoy when you die, I mean, that is insane. Why can't I enjoy now that I'm alive? Why can't I have all those things that is in the heaven, that mansion, all those things? Why can't I have them when I'm alive? That is the question that my people should be asking themselves, because it's possible. You can actually have those things while you are alive. You can still enjoy those things while you are alive. And how do you enjoy them? You enjoy those things by using your brain, by asking the right questions, by doing the right thing, by, holding the people that is supposed to hold accountable, you hold them accountable. You understand? This is how you can enjoy that paradise that you are told in the Bible. I do tell people that the people that wrote the Bible are very archaic. There are a lot of things that they don't know. As at the time they wrote the Bible, they didn't know that human beings would be so sophisticated that would be using guns and, weapon of mass destruction. They were talking about sword in the Bible. Nobody used sword anymore. They never knew that the time will come where sword will be outdated. You understand? And they're talking about chariots. Who rides on chariots now? We ride on airplanes. They told us about the Tower of Babel, that people were building a tower and they got to heaven. And I asked people, so what happened now that we are flying with airplanes? What happened now? So all these things are, when you use your brain and think about all these things, you know that they actually stories of people that we are living in medieval era. We are no longer in that era. I mean, I don't understand how a modern person, a modern man, a modern woman would be reading the Bible. It doesn't make sense to me, because you are not living in that medieval era anymore. You are living in an age of computer, age of technology. The Bible doesn't make sense anymore. The Bible is actually outdated, and so many of the things that religion does is actually outdated, because the people that made up so many of these religions, they were medieval people. They are not the people like us. So we just have to use we are living in the modern time. We just have to use the modern knowledge to solve the modern problems. So
good word. I love it. And that's such a good point that, we may in some ways argue that, back in the day, in those days of Bible times, they felt they needed this stuff because it was the best explanation they could do. But we have so much better information, and it's like we're clinging to stuff that, like, it really shocks you when you really think about like what you're talking about, and then kind of elaborate it in a poetic sense to thinking like what this has done to your life. And you think, I have let dead men from 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, I've let dead men dominate and write the story of my life. Like, that's insane. We have absolutely outgrown this. It is outdated, and I think it's a great word. But I do want to just wrap up by saying I really do appreciate, number one, the fact that you're raising your voice there in Nigeria and doing what you can. I'm so glad when I interviewed Mubarak Bala a few days ago that he got out of prison, and I hope his voice keeps getting stronger. I get the sense that you all are facing some stuff that's, I mean, we're going through some stuff here in the United States, but you all are facing some stuff that's really, really difficult in Nigeria. And
Yeah.
I want to wish you well. I hope that the journey for people like yourself stays safe and that you can continue to raise your voice and hopefully help a lot of people escape. And, it's a dream right now to hope for secularism to sort of eventually dominate government, but I really do hope for good things for our futures. But thank you so much, Amy. It's really great to get to know you. It's so good to hear your story, and really appreciate you sharing all your insights. Do you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up today?
I just want to thank you for this opportunity to air my views and talk about my journey, my experiences. I mean, it's a very great opportunity, and I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that you are reaching out to people like me in Nigeria, because there are some things that are very important. I do tell people that it's important that we build a united front. We build a community down here that will be global and internationally recognized. Because if the movement in Nigeria is globally and internationally recognized, someone like Mubarak Bala wouldn't have to go through what he went through, and for a lot of other people that are still going through a very difficult time just because of speaking up and, earning. Because what we have done so far is asking question, why is it like this? Why is it like that? I mean, why can't we do things differently? But of course, the people that are benefiting from the system, they feel that, we are exposing too much. And when we expose too much, that means, the money that is actually entering their pockets will no longer be entering, because they have built a very big empire on these lies. They have built a huge empire, brainwashing the people, making the people poor. You can imagine people that don't have conscience. You are living with people that are very impoverished. They can't even afford 3 square meal, and you're still collecting money from them, still lying to them and giving them false hope. So they feel that we're exposing too much, and we need to be stopped. So I just want to use this opportunity to reach out to my people to tell them that we just have to, organize ourselves. We have to organize ourselves. We have to have a united front. We have to, align ourselves with our brothers and our sisters outside of the continent, so that, so that if anything should happen, we will lend our voices and we will be able to challenge the system,
Yeah, absolutely.
in a united front. In a united front. So thank you so much, team. I'm really, really grateful.
Well, I just want to say thank you again, Amy. Great to get to know you. Thank you for your insights. And I'll have a link beneath this video for if anyone wants to subscribe to your YouTube channel. So anyone who's interested, please do check that out. And let's do it again sometime. I want to kind of hear how your journey's going. So I want to connect, down the line and see how things are evolving there, especially with your government and with ours, and as things change over the years. But thank you so much. Keep up the great work. We need voices like yours for sure in the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.